All right, so I'm Ben. We're in a dope house that I was almost murdered in, although it's not a dope house anymore. It's getting renovated into safe and sober living for trafficking survivors, vets with kids. I don't know. We're going to figure that out. I'm here with Matt. I've known Matt for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
We did a lot of cool shit together in Afghanistan, Ukraine, and now right here in Memphis. Matt's a Marine infantry combat vet, and we're about to hear his story. So, Matt, tell us, who the fuck are you?
I'm Matt Young. I joined the Marine Corps in 1999 and served till
God, you're old.
definitely feeling it some days. Served till 2005. Did several peacetime vacation deployments and two desert deployments. The first one was kind of just light. You know, same stuff guys over there still put up with to this day, with incoming and not knowing, you know, what the next day is going to hold, but nothing really going bad either.
But to Iraq.
We were in Kuwait for that
Okay,
one,
okay.
but you know, Saddam was still in control of Iraq at the time, so it was for the push. And then a year later, I was back as an activated reservist, and we were an infantry unit out there holding ground. Fox Company, 2nd Battalion, 24th Marines. Just south of Baghdad, city called Mahmudiya and Yusufia. Those became famous later for some bad stuff that went down, but you know, it was very insurgent-friendly territory, and so we had a lot of mostly homegrown insurgents that we were fighting. Not a whole lot of foreign fighters yet. Those came later for the guys who followed us.
Where did most of the foreign fighters come from?
Most of them were coming from, well, a large amount of them were coming from Syria. They were coming through Syria at the very least. They were from all the different Arab countries. But the area we were in actually is the area that spawned ISIS a decade later.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so there was a lot of homegrown, you know, people who were disenfranchised with the loss of Saddam's government.
Yep.
And very intermixed area between the different sects. So there was regional violence as well as violence towards us. So it was a very interesting dynamic at a very interesting time to be in Iraq.
So what year were you in Yusufia?
I was there in 2004 and into 2005.
Okay. So funny side note, the guy that introduced me to opiates lost his leg in Yusufia in 2006.
Okay. That was right. That was when the foreign fighters had really started to come in. So there was a lot more suicide bombings, and we had mostly IEDs, but suicide bombings really picked up after that.
Okay. So you got out in 2005?
Yeah, got out in 2005. I was newly married, made it through the first floor deployments without getting married, but the fifth one I
That's
got married
impressive
before.
for an infantryman.
Yeah. Didn't have any cars at 27% or anything like
What?
that. Yeah, I didn't even have any tattoos. I don't know what I was doing. Apparently not having enough fun.
Not being a Marine the right way.
Right. So I fixed that for the last deployment. You know, got married very soon after. My first kid was on the way after we got back, and then went to college, and have really made it like really high performing in college. I was in either the top or the second from the top person in my program for social work.
So that's interesting right there. So you go from Marine infantryman, combat deployments,
Yeah.
to I want to be a social worker. How the fuck did that happen?
So that happened because when I first got back and had my first couple issues with adjusting to being back, I went to the VA, and the counselor that I was hooked up with didn't know anything. He was, like every time I would go in, he'd be like, "Have we met before?"
Oh God.
Just like not even checking the computer. And I was like, I can do better than that. So that's what pushed me down that road. I was like, veterans deserve to be treated better, especially at that time with the active wars that we were making. We were making veterans and combat veterans did that. We were making them as fast as they could deploy them. So I figured it was hard enough for me to navigate the system. I wanted to help other vets who maybe didn't have as great a family support as I did. My parents are awesome. I wouldn't be alive today without them intervening several times after I got back. But yeah, I was doing really well until I wasn't. I went right to into my master's program, and was kind of burning the candle on both ends, driving back and forth a couple hours every day to go to my school and apprenticeship. And yeah, I just all of a sudden got really bad flashbacks, and in a couple of weeks, I went from being 4 months from graduating with my master's to kicked out of my house, separating from my wife and two sons, couple inpatient mental health stays for suicidal kind of ideations and behavior. Well, I mean, like actively planning suicide.
And when was this? Like 2007?
That would have been 2009, because I made it through the bachelor's degree, pretty much just buried myself in work, and ended up down in Chicago, VA, and got the help I needed at the time. And then actually finished getting, because they put me on so many different medications and so many different doctors were prescribing so many different things. I'm really lucky I just didn't die from a medication overdose, especially knowing how bad the opiate stuff got right around that time frame. I'm really glad I didn't make any mistakes, because it was really, if I would have taken 2 days worth of meds in one day, I'd have been dead.
Done, yeah.
But I ended up on the same mental health floor that I was working on 8 months before that. And the doctors were like, what the hell happened to you, man? You were like, then you just disappeared. And I'm like, yeah, well, things aren't good. So they helped me get back to kind of more of a manageable baseline.
So you're in there and you're seeing doctors you had been
working with, right.
Jess had that same thing happen in 2019 when we hit rock bottom. She was a medical assistant for an orthopedic surgeon at Delta Medical, and we went to detox to get off of opiates and crack cocaine. She ran into the doctor she used to work for there on the elevator on the way to breakfast one morning. Yeah, you want to talk about humiliated? That was but that still wasn't actually a rock bottom for her. Anyway, so you and I met. Like, yes, all right, let's back up. You go back and you finish all your shit. You got your master's.
I don't have my master's. I was never able to go back. Okay. Unfortunately, I've been through that cycle now a couple times. Haven't lost my second marriage because of it. I'm sure I've gotten close a few times to losing it based on my own behavior, but it's a cycle where I'll bury myself in doing something, and then all of a sudden we'll hit a wall, and I can't. Even like getting out of bed is too difficult. Some days, and I think I've been through that a couple times since then. But that 2011 time frame was definitely the worst.
2011, coincidentally, is when I got addicted to opiates, and that downward spiral started for me. Now, heroin didn't enter the picture until 2013, but yeah, 2011, 2012, pretty rough time.
What boggles my mind about that is the first suits against the pharmaceutical companies that were responsible for all this. They were happening in 2003.
Oh, I know.
And we were, in the 2010s here, getting overprescribed. For me, it wasn't opiates; it was the benzodiazepines.
Yep. Yeah. But those are just as bad, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see the overdose deaths from them as much, but the withdrawal from it can kill you.
Yeah.
Your body pharmacokinetically can't tell the difference between that and alcohol.
Right.
It's one of the few withdrawals that can actually end your life. I had 2 heart attacks and 11 seizures trying to come off of alcohol and benzos and crack and heroin and everything else.
And that's what that last hospitalization was for me, was them
to detox from benzos?
Medically getting off the benzos.
Okay. Yeah, I was prescribed from 2006 to, I guess, 2000. No, it would have been 04 to 07. I was on like just gargantuan doses of Xanax prescribed.
Sure.
Then had to fucking medically detox from that, and it was not pleasant. So I wonder if your experience is similar to mine. Once I got off of them, the anxiety is actually manageable. Once I had like a 6-month window from being off of them.
Yeah.
I don't have that rebound panic attack.
No.
I still deal with anxiety every day.
Right.
It's constant. But I've found that it's easier to manage without the meds. Like the meds were almost a crutch that made it worse, I think.
Yeah, I have the same experience. and you get to the point where if you actually did need the meds for a medical reason, then they're not going to work how they're supposed to.
Right.
I know I've had this conversation with a lot of different people, but I mean, there's got to be something in between eventually where they can give you something to get you out of a panic attack, but not hook you. But you know, unfortunately, we don't have that yet. Or if there is that, it's sure not being prescribed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're standing in a community right now that I've watched prescribed narcotics absolutely destroyed, because it always spins from prescribed to getting off the streets. And
Right.
South Memphis has been hit harder than any other area I'm aware of by opiates and cocaine. I don't know where I was going with that. My ADHD grabbed me. Anyway, so you and I met. How do we meet?
We were working with and adjacent to Task Force Argo, working on getting Afghans out of Afghanistan. I think I met you during the time when we were still doing flights. We were getting people
Irene.
We were getting people on flights out of Mazar-i Sharif, and you know, there was a lot of 20-hour days going on at the time.
God.
I can remember specifically on one flight day, I went to sleep at 5:45 a.m. and the alarm went off at 6 o'clock to start getting kids to school.
Yeah. Yep. I don't miss that. So when you look at GWOT, the Global War on Terror, there's like two very different generations of it. There's 2001 to 2011, and then there's 2011 to 2020. You're GWOT, old school.
We're GWOT old school. We didn't have any of the mine-resistant vehicles. We had Hummers with some bolted-on armor.
Yep.
They affectionately got called suicide sleds.
Mm-hmm.
Our unit, thank God, none of those got hit. We would strategically move the up armors around through the convoy. We had one vehicle, our executive officer's vehicle, that got blown up repeatedly, but it was an up armor. We did lose a guy, Travis Wicklotch, was killed in the XO's vehicle. But the XO's vehicle was, it was like 5 different vehicles because they kept getting blown up.
Yeah, I think the guy I mentioned who lost his leg in Yusifia was blown up 3 times on that deployment. And I've seen the pictures. It was actually the one with the least damage that ended up taking his leg. Like one of them blew the front clip completely off the HMMWV, I guess.
Yeah.
The whole engine compartment's gone. Then nobody got injured.
I know that's what they're designed to do, but I know that a manufacturer defect or a cheap alloy in a bolt can kill you too.
Yeah.
Just from breaking loose and shooting around inside the vehicle
fragmentation.
cabins.
Yeah. Yep. So how, with you being GWOT Era 1, how did you get pulled into Afghanistan?
So first guy I met when I checked into my active duty unit. I've never stepped foot in Afghanistan. The first guy I met in my unit, named Charles Cooper, he did 4 years with me. We were in the same platoon. We were in the same company the entire time. We were in the same platoon for about half the time. And one of my best friends from active duty, I saw something in the, I started watching the withdrawal happen. The first day when the airport got taken over by the Taliban, before the Marines and Army showed up to secure the airport. I was like, man, this is terrible. And started coping with memes for the first 12 hours or so. And then I made a post on Facebook and was like, hey, how can I help with this? And my buddy sends me screenshots of this conversation between him and one of his interpreters. And he's like, well, can you help me get this guy into the airport? And I'm like, well, I don't know how I do that, but I'll make some calls.
Yep.
And that's how it all started with. I'm going to make a few phone calls.
And we've seen, like, I don't think it's hyperbole to call it a global movement that started just like that.
No, you have people from all walks of life, all the way across the political spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
People, country people been over there, city people who haven't, people from Europe, Australia, and these are just the people in the circles that like I move in. I'm sure there's people all over elsewhere that were doing things at the time too. And it was just important to me to do something. have enough struggles with mental health that I can't always do the thing, but I can always do something.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've tried to do since, is just keep doing something. And sometimes that means, trying to move mountains on the other side of the planet, and sometimes that means throwing some drywall mud up.
Damn right. Well, and we did move mountains. I mean, we really
Yeah.
did. There's no way around that. And then the same networks that got started with those phone calls, we've done stuff in Ukraine, Gaza, and Israel, other places, and right here, back to the streets in America.
Right.
I think it's amazing. If you hear Scott Mann talk about it, he's much more eloquent than I am. I drop too many F-bombs and I don't have the big words, but the grassroots efforts that you see popping, hang on, let me let this puppy out. The grassroots efforts you see popping up all over America right now, it's wild to watch. People just showing up, and it's like you here right now. This is a great example of it. This is not your problem. You're not from here. No. You have no ties to Memphis whatsoever. You're not here because you're a social worker. It makes sense for me to be here. I was almost murdered on the back corner of this house 10 years ago. This is my block. This is my neighborhood.
Right.
And I want to see it get better, but you're here. Why?
I'm here because there's people who need help. There's networks that we've built to try to help them, whether it's here or on the other side of the planet. We all just want to do something, and everybody can do something.
Damn right everybody can. That's the biggest takeaway from, I think, the work you and I have done together over the last 2.5 years. Is it doesn't matter who you are. I'm barely even a vet. Like, I've never deployed, and we're pulling off amazing shit in countries I've never been to, countries I have been to, streets where I almost died. But we're getting good things done at scale. And I think that's what's so cool about this, is that you can just show up and actually get things done. And I say this all the time. I think we as human beings have been, I don't even know what the word is. We've all got that thing in us that breaks our heart to look at.
Yeah.
And when we move towards that thing, like very intentionally, and look for ways to make a difference, we find people who are on that same path as us, and we're able to put together teams that can make a measurable difference in those things. And when that starts to happen, I truly believe we find our purpose on this earth. And for me, being an addict and an alcoholic, purpose is extremely important. I can't stay sober without it. But it's, I don't know, man. I think we're gonna see more and more people showing up to get shit done than we have in the last 20 years. Well, we could sit here and go down the rabbit hole of mainstream media and politics and all that, but we've been very divided as a country since what made me enlist, which was September 11th.
Right.
The unity we had around that, the 9/12 mentality, we can call it, is something I want to see America get back to. We're not as divided as the media makes us feel like we should be.
No, it's incredible. Social media is a great tool. It's a great business tool. It's a great many things. It's great for staying in communication with old friends, especially active duty military friends all over the country. People from non-military people, college, had the same experience. People kind of go to the winds. It's a good way to keep track of people, but unfortunately you see a lot of times an unfiltered, unscripted, they just put out into the world, so it really makes you feel divided. But on the flip side, you can also find out these little stories. You find out about the block here and all the struggles of our fellow Americans that need help. And the needs are different, but we all have a skill that we can use to help those needs. Maybe your skill isn't networking on the other side of the planet. Maybe it's doing a little manual labor, watching someone's kids so they can go do some work. But there's definitely something we can all do.
Yep, and it's going to take us all, because nobody's coming.
No.
It's up to us. These are our streets, and I think people looking to the government for a solution to this. You hear it all the time. Every time I make a post about what we're doing out here, I get comments, and they're well-meaning, but it's like, well, the government should do more of this. No, the government should not. The government needs to stay the fuck out of it, because every time they step into anything, they complicate the shit out of it.
Right.
The VA is a great example of that. They're doing the best they can with the resources they have, but at the end of the day, Robert said it yesterday, bureaucracy ends lives. They can't move nimbly enough, especially when we're talking about opiate addiction with the prevalence of fentanyl now. They can't move nimbly enough to make a difference. We're dealing with a situation out here where a delay of minutes can end a life.
Yeah.
Whether it's a vet or, you know, just somebody on the streets out here. If they are ready for help and they need help, you got to be able to move. And you got to be able to move quick. And that's why I think government just really doesn't have a role in this other than to fund. I'd love to see some funding, right? But you know, they could bring strategic resources to bear and help people like you and I getting good things done out here. I'm sure, you know, there's a need for this exact same thing up in Wisconsin.
There definitely
Madison
is.
in
It's a different dynamic, but it's the same kind of need.
Yep.
In communities across the country, people think, you know, sometimes they think that it's not in their neighborhood. It is.
It's everywhere.
You know, you get people dying all the time from preventable things.
Yep. I saw something, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago, the former CEO of YouTube, quadrillionaire, her 19-year-old son just died from a fentanyl overdose in college. And if that doesn't prove right there that this is something that can affect anybody and everybody, I don't know what does. And this isn't just a problem that's affecting, you know, a trafficked black prostitute. I mean,
Right.
it hits all of us. We're definitely in the hood. You can hear the train. We're like, I don't know, 10 yards, 20 yards from the train tracks. It's going to be real loud here in a second. That train fucks up half the interviews we do. But it adds local flavor, right?
Yeah, reminds me of home. We had a train track about a block from us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
wakes some people up. That's like comfort noise for me.
That's exactly
So.
right. Well, I'm going to shut up and let Matt get back to floating this sheetrock, and I'm going to go out here and bug somebody else. Dude, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. The last 2.5 years have been a crazy learning experience.
They sure have.
And America's a better place because you're here. Love you, bro.